first time I met Henry, he was standing under a tree in Central Park, handing out used novels from a tote bag that looked older than I was. He wore a navy wool coat, polished shoes, and a scarf that carried the scent of aged leather and eucalyptus tea. He had a quiet elegance, like someone who knew the value of time. Not because he was running out of it, but because he'd seen what people wasted on. I was late for an interview I didn't want, broke, cold, and starving. But something about him, his stillness, maybe made me pause. He extended a paperback toward me. The Old Man and the Sea. Fitting now that I think about it. You look like someone who needs a Hemingway, he said. I took the book with a confused smile and walked off without saying much. I was 25, fresh out of grad school, and barely surviving New York on coffee and borrowed hope. That night I read the entire book. The next Thursday I went back. He was there again. Same tree, same bag of books, same quiet energy that made the noisy world around him blur. I lingered, pretending to be deep in a text on my phone. Back so soon, he said, eyes smiling. That was the start of something neither of us expected. We met every Thursday. I started calling them my park appointments, even blocked them out in my calendar like they were something official. Some days we talked about books. Other days we sat in comfortable silence. He never pried. Never asked about my job hunt or my messy family or the fiancé I had just broken up with. But somehow he knew. He always knew. His name was Henry Whitaker, a retired philosophy professor who'd taught at NYU for 35 years. Widowed. One son. Estranged. A heart condition. A lover of poetry, jazz, and strong black tea. And someone who, at 70, had more passion for life than most 20-year-olds I knew. One day, I brought him a blueberry muffin and shyly admitted I'd baked it myself. His eyes lit up like it was a Michelin star meal. I used to bake for my wife, he said. She said the secret to a good muffin is to never overmix the batter. I smiled. That's exactly what I did. We grew close quickly, close in the way only lonely souls can. But I didn't admit to myself that I was falling in love. Not yet. The first time he touched me, just a hand over mine during a quiet laugh, I felt a jolt that terrified me. I was 25. He was 70. What did that even mean? But that jolt wasn't lust. It was connection. It was knowing. It was something the world didn't have a name for, so it called it inappropriate. I didn't care. When I finally told him I had feelings, he looked at me like I had told him the sun had risen twice. You're so young, he said softly, like an apology. And you're so kind, I replied. That's rarer. We kissed for the first time under that same tree in early November. The leaves were amber and gold, and I remember thinking how strange and beautiful it was that someone like him could make me feel both young and eternal. I moved into his brownstone in Brooklyn a few months later. My friends were horrified. One blocked me. Another accused me of having a granddaddy fetish. Only one asked, "Are you happy?" And I truly was. Henry never tried to own me. He didn't suffocate me with love. He let me grow, encouraged me to apply for fellowships, even sat through my slam poetry events when I decided to find myself through spoken word. He held my hand when I cried, didn't mock me when I failed, and celebrated even my smallest wins like they were Nobel Prizes. But the world wasn't ready for us. People stared, whispered, some laughed. Strangers called me a gold digger. Once, a woman in line at a coffee shop leaned over and said, "Your father has good taste." I smiled sweetly and replied, "He's not my father. He's my future." Henry chuckled for a whole week after that. I started writing freelance essays about loneliness, about love, about things society doesn't want to talk about. One of my pieces went viral. It was titled, "He's 70, I'm 25, and no, I'm not sorry." The hate was brutal, but so was the support. Women wrote from nursing homes, thanking me for seeing the soul behind the wrinkles. Men sent letters admitting they'd given up on love after 50. One woman told me she left her emotionally abusive husband and started dating again at 62. All because I told the truth. We had 2 beautiful years together before Henry collapsed in the garden while pruning his roses. I found him minutes later, slumped against the wall, one hand still holding a pair of shears. He survived the heart attack, but he was never the same. He was tired, faded, like the light had dimmed but wasn't gone. He started forgetting names, then places, then my birthday. But every time I read him poetry, his eyes brightened. One day, I read him a line from Neruda. I love you without knowing how or when, or from where. And he whispered the next line before I could finish it. That was the last full sentence he ever spoke to me. The decline was slow, cruel. Some days he thought I was his late wife. Other days he just stared out the window and cried without knowing why. I stayed, not because I had nowhere to go, but because I had nowhere better. When he passed, I held his hand and kissed his forehead and told him the thing he had always told me. Love doesn't measure time, it measures depth. I buried him under a weeping willow in the cemetery near the park where we met. I read The Old Man and the Sea at his funeral. No suits, no sermons, just stories, jazz, and muffins. Today, I'm 35. I run a nonprofit that helps connect lonely seniors with young volunteers. We call it Henry's Bench. Every Thursday we meet in the park. We hand out books. We sit in silence. We listen. And sometimes I tell my story. People still ask me the same question, why him? And I still give the same answer, why not? Because love doesn't follow logic. It follows light. And Henry, he was my sunrise.